from sea to shining sea throughout the solar system, and extending to interstellar regions beyond. This is the Kevin Smith Show. Talk radio like nowhere else on Earth.
Comments and views expressed on The Kevin Smith Show are those of the people that make them and do not necessarily reflect the views of Kevin Smith, The Kevin Smith Show, or its affiliates or sponsors.
Hi, folks, and welcome to the Kevin Smith Show, whoever you are and wherever you are, all around this beautiful place we call Earth. Thanks for being here at the Kevin Smith Show. I'm here because you have a right to know, and because you matter. And because of that, we talk about things that a lot of the mainstream media will not touch, and if they do, they touch it with giggles. But we talk about things that are real and that are happening and that deserve to be discussed and looked into in the world of the strange and unexplained. And we do live in a very strange world. One of the definitions of paranormal, is anything for which there is no scientific explanation. You can find that definition all over the internet. Well, that being the case, we pretty much live in a paranormal universe because there is no scientific explanation for most of the universe. And that's something a lot of people don't know, and they're surprised to hear, and some of you are hearing it for the first time tonight, and you're scratching your head and saying, where does this guy get off saying that? Well, you ask any real physicist, quantum physicist, astrophysicist, astronomer, anybody that deals in the heavy sciences, you ask them if that's true. There's a lot of things that we can explain somewhat, a lot of them. But most of this universe yet awaits a scientific explanation. And there's just a lot of guesses and speculations and theories, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's what science is about. But it does point out something that is very important, and that is you live in a strange world. And you live in a strange universe. And there are a lot of unexplained things going on, and we take a look at things that are strange and unexplained. So if this is your first time to join us here at the Kevin Smith Show, welcome. I'm delighted you're here. I think you will be too. And hope you make a habit out of this. It only takes once or twice listening to this show, and then you're hooked, you're addicted. Well, if you just got to have an addiction, this is a good one to have. And I hope to help you get it. We publish here at the Kevin Smith Show a free weekly newsletter. It's called the K-Files. It's free for anybody and everybody, and we want you to be getting it. There are no strings attached, and we make it available each and every day, 24 hours a day, for you to subscribe. On the website at kevinsmithshow.com, click where it says K-Files, and subscribe. And then you'll get an email almost immediately that has a link in it that you have to click in order to activate your subscription. Well, be sure you do that. And once you've activated your subscription, you're good to go. and you will be getting the K-Files. Tonight is K-Files night. That means after the show tonight, we begin sending it out. So subscribe right now and activate right now, and then you'll get it. We'll be back right after this.
Whatever you do, have a nice day. Have a nice day. Muchas gracias.
And welcome back to the Kevin Smith Show. Tonight is a free-to-watch night, so we've got lots of new folks joining us on the TV channel tonight. Welcome. We're glad to have you. Those of you who haven't caught on to that yet, we announced it on my Facebook page, which, by the way, if you're not a fan on Facebook, you need to become a fan or a friend on my Facebook page. The link is right there on the website, kevinsmithshow.com. It says Kevin's Facebook. Click that. It'll take you over there. Or you can just go to facebook.com/Kevin Smith Show. That'll get you there. But we announced it, that it was a free-to-watch night, and so we've got a number of folks joining us tonight, and new folks, and we're glad you're here. Now, tonight, we're going to, it will eventually be open line, but in response to some of the emails that I've gotten as a result of shows I've done this week, I decided that I was going to show you some more pictures from Mars and from the moon. Every time I do one of these shows, I get email from people. Once in a while I'll get an email where they'll say, well, look, that's old hat. I saw that. Okay, you did. But the planet has 7 billion people on it, and not everybody has seen what you have seen. Some of the pictures I'm going to show you tonight I've never talked about, never discussed on the show, but you may have seen them. Some of them may be entirely new to you, and if you're new to this whole genre of information, then all of these pictures will be new to you. And they are curious, interesting, weird pictures, and in some cases show what I think is evidence of past civilization on Mars. Before you run screaming into the nighttime that you've accidentally tuned in to a show where the radio host is a nutcase, look, I may be, but that's beside the point. The pictures are from NASA. All right, these are NASA's pictures. They're not mine. I haven't been to Mars. I haven't been to the moon. These are NASA. And in fact, I think it's possible I may have taken the moon pictures out. We'll see. But I know we've got some Mars pictures up here. The evidence is, in my estimation, overwhelming that there has been past intelligent living civilization on Mars. I think the evidence is more than compelling, but I would not say overwhelming, but more than compelling, that there is living civilization on the moon right now. Now, we've talked about a lot of that evidence. And please don't go tell people that I believe that there are intelligent beings on the moon. I didn't say I believe that. I said something far stronger than that. I think that's the case. I don't believe it. And beyond that, I think that's the case. I think the evidence shows that. And when it comes to Mars, I don't believe there was past civilization on Mars. The evidence is beyond compelling. It's overwhelming. And the evidence shows up in NASA photographs. But the first photographs we're going to look at really are just weird. It's not about proving that there is or has been intelligent beings on Mars. They're just very, very strange. And the first photograph that we're going to look at is the one that I used as the background for the picture you see on the website. If you're watching right now on our TV channel, then you're seeing it just over my shoulder there. That is a weird picture. I mean, it looks like a whole bunch of whipped cream or something out there. Now, this was the picture itself is the one on the left, and we've zoomed in a little bit for the one on the right, but the whole picture is the one on the left. And there are 2 red circles. We're going to look at zooming in on what's in those red circles in a moment, but this is from the Mars Global Surveyor. Now, do you remember the Mars Global Surveyor? The Mars Global Surveyor was a magnificent science mission to Mars, and it operated for about 10 years. And then the new satellite went up, the Mars, let's see, what is it called? Reconnaissance Orbiter, the MRO. Mars Global Surveyor was still up there, and it was photographing and photographing and photographing all over Mars. You and I have never seen all of the pictures it took. And but this is one of them that we're going to look at here. But then the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter was sent up, and it got into orbit. And now we had two great satellites up there around Mars that were just photographing all over Mars. And remember, the Mars Global Surveyor had been there already for about 10 years. And these satellites lose contact with mission control here on Earth as they go around Mars, because they get over on the far side of Mars and they have no radio contact with NASA. So they're pre-programmed to do what they're going to do. And when they come back around, then whatever pictures they took, whatever data they got, they start downloading it immediately as they come back around into radio contact. So the Mars Global Surveyor went around just as it was supposed to, and when it was time for it to come back out, it didn't. It just disappeared. So they took the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, the new one, and it has super high power, high resolution cameras. They turned it in the direction where the Mars Global Surveyor should be. Now remember, they've been running that Mars Global Surveyor, MGS. They've run the MGS for 10 years. They know exactly where it's supposed to be. And it wasn't there. So they turned on the super high power, high resolution camera and looked, and it wasn't there. Furthermore, there was no debris. It was just gone. Now, there were all kinds of theories and all kinds of explanations about what happened to it, and then it all went quiet. I had a guest on this show who's, kind of a big name, and he tried his best to explain how, if one of the batteries overheated and it kind of had a little blowout, it would have sent the MGS spinning out of control and out into space. Well, the problem with that is it would take more than that amount of power to break orbit, even around Mars. Furthermore, there should have been debris somewhere. We should have seen a spinning satellite getting further away from us, getting further away from the camera on the new satellite. It wasn't there. It just disappeared. The Russians had something like that happen with Phobos 2 back in the 1980s. I think it was 1982. They sent up the Phobos 2 satellite, and it was actually an international mission, but it was being run by the Russian Space Agency. And it got into orbit around Mars and started taking pictures, and it got some pictures of a very big, long elliptical shadow traveling across the surface of Mars. There was nothing in front of the camera that could cause that, so whatever it was behind the satellite. The satellite, then they turned it to look and see what was going on, and it got a picture of a very long elliptical cigar-shaped object, cylindrical, not elliptical. And then it was struck by something. It got a picture of this object, and then the satellite began to spin wildly out of control and disappeared. So that's not the first time something weird has happened to a satellite over at Mars when MGS just disappeared. A big mystery, one that we've talked about quite a bit here. But it's the MGS that took the picture that we're going to zoom in on and look at. And the reason I decided to do this is because this picture has, although lots of articles were written at the time and a lot of discussion about what are those black things standing up on what appears to be, looks like, I guess it's sand dunes, but it looks like whipped cream, really. But then there's these black things standing up on top of them. What are those things? Well, there were a lot of articles at the time written about it. And a lot of people posted things in forums, and there were blogs written about it, and it was pretty big news. And then it, like all other topics, died away. I don't know, maybe Lindsay Lohan got arrested again, and her news killed this. I don't know. I mean, that's the way it happens. Big news like Lindsay Lohan getting arrested or Justin Bieber getting sick on stage, that's big news, and it's important. And so stuff like this vanishes. And recently, within the past couple of weeks, there have been a couple of articles written that are out there on the internet now, re-examining and taking another look at this picture from the Mars Global Surveyor. So over on the left side of your screen, you can see there are two circles. One is up top, one is at the bottom of the picture, and we're going to take a look at what's in those circles. And the one up top first. We zoom in, and what is it? I mean, really, what is that? I've looked at this pretty close, and, sometimes I look at it, and have you ever seen pictures of eaglets? You know what an eaglet is, right? A baby eagle. Have you ever seen a picture of an eaglet, and mom comes in with some dinner that she's picked up out there, and these little eaglets have their mouths open like so? Have you seen that? Well, sometimes when I look at this picture, it has that appearance. On the other hand, it also has the appearance of two guys standing there. I'm not saying that's what it is, but two guys standing there, like guards, sentries. And the one on the right, if that's what it, if it was two guys standing there, the one on the right appears to have a rifle or some type of long weapon in his right hand that's kind of propped on his hip and sticking up. Now, I understand, look, you're looking at this and you're saying, well, I don't see that at all. Well, okay. I'm just telling you how it looks to me sometimes when I look at it. Let me zoom in just a little bit more and maybe you will see that. Let's see. Now, I think you might can see why I say that. I don't know what these things are, but they are strange, and they're standing all over these sand dunes. Virtually every sand dune or whatever that is. When I was a kid, they used to joke about how the moon was made of green cheese. It was just a joke. Well, maybe Mars is made of whipped cream. I don't know. That's what it looks like. It has that appearance. But I'm sure these are dunes, sand dunes. But this, you see these figures, these black things sticking up all over virtually every one of these sand dunes. Now, there's another picture or another site we're going to look at, and it's that lower circle. That lower circle is really, really interesting, and this is what the articles are dealing with. The articles are saying Well, that has the appearance of a bipedal creature of some kind, and with his arms raised up. And I'll tell you what, let's zoom in on that, and I think you'll see why they say that. It does look like a bipedal, upright creature with his arms raised up. Well, is that what it is? I mean, if it is, we're looking sort of we're looking at his back with his right side kind of aimed at us, if that's what this is. Now, I don't know what these things are, and, I don't want you to go out there and say that I said that these are people. But I mean, they have that general shape. Some of them don't. Some of them don't have that general shape at all. But the reason, this is out there on the internet again. It's beginning to surface again. It's beginning to make rounds again. People talking about it, taking a look at it. The reason I decided that I wanted to use this to open up with here tonight is not so that I could say, well, here's what that is. That's not the reason. The reason is because I wanted to set the stage for the fact that there's a lot of weird stuff on Mars. I mean, there really is a lot of strange stuff on Mars. And sometimes people, especially if they're new to our genre, don't get it when someone says, well, that looks like XYZ. And then they go away saying, well, he said that was XYZ. No. It looks like XYZ. Don't know what it is, but it has the appearance of XYZ. So we're going to look at some more stuff that has the appearance of XYZ, and we'll see what we think it is.
the Kevin Smith Show. This is Vegas Gary. Listen, we got aliens here taking all our money, and the people that come into this town, they leave broke. I need you to investigate them. Call me. Hey, 70. If they haven't got me yet, please help me. See you, Kevin.
And welcome back to the Kevin Smith Show and our discussion about some of these pictures. Just a little bit more before we get into these pictures here. It's important that you understand where the pictures come from. Originally, of course, these are NASA pictures, NASA photographs. But where did I get them? Well, some of these from NASA and some from J.P. Skipper's website called MarsAnomalyResearch.com. And it's important that we credit when we use someone else's work. J.P. Skipper does fantastic work. And I know, I don't know if he's watching tonight, but I know what it's like whenever someone uses your work and doesn't give you credit for it. It's irritating. I was going through loads of pictures today and looking on the internet to see if there was anything additional that I wanted to use for tonight. And in the search, I saw a picture that I recognized. It was mine. You remember the shows that I did about the Curiosity where it landed, and I said there's way away from it there. It looks like engineering, and it looks like culverts, and looks like a broken bridge, and there's a riverbed or a creek bed right there. And I drew lines of all of that and labeled all of that and showed you where it was. You remember that? I saw that on the internet today. And I knew I didn't put it on the internet. I used it during the show. I created it. I took the NASA picture, and then I put all those lines and labels in it. I created that graphic. And so I saw it on the internet today. I clicked it and just wanted to see, well, where is it? And it was not the only one of mine that was up there. And so what had happened is someone just captured it right off the screen off of our TV broadcast and had put it on the internet, which I don't mind. That's okay. But, of course, there was no credit given saying we got this from the Kevin Smith Show. But we broke that story. I told you that was a riverbed at least 3 weeks before NASA came out and said, you know what, this is a riverbed. And but I know it's a little irritating when someone uses your work and they don't give you credit for it. So I want to be sure and do that. This picture right here came, I got this off of J.P. Skipper's website. But at the bottom of all of his pictures, he gives you the link where, or the at least the picture file number, where you can go find it yourself. And it's too small. His writing, you'll see this if you go to his website, is really too small to be seen on our screen. So I took the liberty of lifting the file picture number and putting it in a little yellow box for you there. But J.P. Skipper is the one that searched it out and found it originally. And then I'm using his work with this picture. But I want to, and again, it's MarsAnomalyResearch.com. Go check that out. You'll find some amazing research there and amazing pictures. All right, let's move on to this picture. Now, what we're looking at is a picture taken by the Curiosity rover. And it shows what appears to be a footprint. Now, not everything that we see is what it appears to be, but most things are. we can see that this appears to be a footprint in the sand near the rover. I got to tell you, this is one that I kind of toss in the air. My first instinct is that that is a rover track, but the problem I have with that is that we don't have another rover track. You know, the rover's got two sides, got wheels on both sides. So we don't see in this picture the other rover track. And also look in front of and behind this, I'll call it a footprint. Behind it, we can see a little bit, that would be to the left, we can see a little bit of some more of this footprint kind of looking stuff, or track. But keep looking to your left. You don't see any rover tracks coming from the left to the right to get to that point. Look beyond the toe to the right. You don't see any rover tracks moving from the end of that toe to the right. It's totally disconnected from the rover tracks that we know are rover tracks right in the lower right-hand corner. Okay? Now, if you look at that lower right-hand corner, though, for just a moment, take a look at that rover track, and you can see, let me zoom in just a little bit more, take a look at that rover track, and you can see that it partially kind of is shaped like a footprint. And we know for sure that's a rover track because it's right behind the rover, and we can see part of the rover. So I don't know, I have no explanation for this one. However, let me zoom back out, and let me show you something that's pretty important to notice here. And that is, I want you to notice the size of that, if that's a footprint. Here we go. Let's zoom back out. That's got to be a size 15 foot. If it's a foot. All right, so let's talk about what is this? Is this a footprint or is it a rover track? Well, you got a problem if it's a footprint in that apparently it was a one-legged being wearing a shoe, because there's not two side-by-side bipedal type footprints. So you got a problem. Is it a rover track? Well, if it is, you got a problem, because there are no rover tracks going left to right to get over to it, none going from right to left to get over to it or to show how the rover got out of there. And there's only that one, if it's a track, only that one track, and the rover has two sides. See, when the rover moves, the wheels on both sides of the rover, left and right, leave tracks. So this is really an anomaly, and when I open the phone lines a little bit later, I would be very interested in knowing what you think that is. I mean, is it a rover track or is it a shoe print? If it's a shoe print, a footprint, then we need to talk about how is it that there's just one. I mean, do Martians wear size 15s and have just one leg and they, like hop? I mean, is that... It's truly an anomaly. Now, there's a lot of weird stuff like this all over Mars. When we look at these Mars pictures, and I wanted to use that one because that one is an example of looking at something, just like looking at these figures standing up on top of these sand dunes. That one's an example of something that looks very much like a footprint. It's shaped like a footprint. It looks like a footprint, a shoe print, except it's huge and there's just one. And right across it, the bands going across it look very much like the tracks made by the rover. They look very similar. On the other hand, if the rover had made that, we should have two tracks, left and right. And we should have a track going from the left to the right or from the right to the left, showing how the rover got in there to make that print. So this one is really a mystery. I'm inclined to think it is a rover track, and I cannot possibly explain how it got made. But I am inclined to think it's a rover track. When we look at things, they usually are what our eyes tell us they are. But we have to think about it before we let our eyes tell us. And that's why I chose to use this footprint thing that looks like a footprint. Our eyes look at it and say, well, that looks like a footprint. But we have to think about this. Where's the other footprint? As a matter of fact, let's go back to that picture and let's see if we can tell. Let me zoom in again here. Give me just a second. I have to do this zooming manually because I didn't set it up for zooming automatically. That would appear to me to be a right footprint. If it's a footprint, it appears to be a right foot. Anyway, we look at these things and, you know, they look like something, but then we got to ask questions and we've got to examine what, you know, the whole scene and try to eliminate this, that, and the other thing. I cannot eliminate the rover. Could be a rover track, but I cannot explain it being a rover track. Can you? How did it get over there, make that, and leave no tracks going in or out of where that footprint looking thing is? How did it do that? So it hopped over there, touched down one wheel and spun the wheel just enough to make it look like a footprint and hopped back to where it is in the picture? Is that what happened? If it is a footprint, where's the other one? I cannot eliminate that that's a footprint, but I can't validate it either. Where's the other one? Is this a one-legged giant? Pretty interesting stuff. Now we're going to look at some other stuff that's not quite as mysterious. And this one is from Curiosity, the one we've just been looking at. But let's take a look at this one. This picture from J.P. Skipper's website. But again, you can see the very tiny writing at the bottom, but there's your information of where that is at NASA JPL. This was the Spirit rover took this picture. I think it was on Sol 117. I believe that's correct. Now, in this picture, on the left side is the unzoomed picture. On the right side is the zoomed picture. And I'm going to zoom in some more. This one, well, this one doesn't have as much mystery about how did this happen. Because what you're looking at is quite obviously a big urn of some kind. All right, we're going to take a break, and we'll be back right after this.
Hi, I'm Duanka from Bulgaria, where there are many listeners to Kevin Smith Show. Not only do I like the topics Kevin talks about, I like the way he digs for the truth with every guest. I also like the fact that he has been to Bulgaria and has a great understanding of my country. The Kevin Smith Show and Bulgaria. We connect.
Welcome back to the Kevin Smith Show. This is Kevin Smith. We're taking a look at some pictures from Mars that have some really anomalous things in them. As we went away for break, I was talking about a picture taken by Spirit rover. The Spirit rover, of course, is dead now. It roves no more. But it did fantastic work way beyond its life expectancy. And this is one of its pictures. And we can see, buried in the sand, but sticking up out of the sand, on Mars, a piece of artwork. Now, geology did not produce this. Take a look at the structure of the lines in this, and it's curved. I mean, this is like a big bowl, a big urn. Kind of like the big brass or bronze urns that you see from ancient times, ancient Greek urns. That's what, it doesn't look Greek, but I mean, we have on Earth, we have ancient urns that are very similar to this in construction. That's what that looks like, and I bet you that's what it is. Look at the lines, look at the patterns, look on the left side of it, and you see how those lines come so far over and then turn downward. And it happens with the top line, then the next line, and then under that, there's a line that goes, the third line goes all the way across, turns downward, and then there's a little rectangle under it on the left side. There's one on the right side with a T shape in the middle. And then we have a line that goes all the way across, two lines that go all the way across the bottom, but it appears to be broken at the bottom. Now that's on Mars. If I didn't tell you, if I just showed you this picture, and I didn't tell you that's Mars, I guarantee you, everyone looking at this picture right now, which you should be doing because it's free to watch tonight, you just go to kevinsmithshow.com and click watch. So everybody looking at this, if I didn't tell you that was Mars, your mind would have said that's some kind of ancient urn. The instant I say it's Mars, a big bunch of folks in the population go, well, there's got to be some reasonable explanation for that. There is. The truth. The truth is it is what it appears to be. Well, there's got to be some rational explanation. What's irrational about admitting the truth? The truth is that's a picture of some kind of art, a bowl, a big bowl, apparently metal, but I don't know for sure that it is. It's got designs on it. Some people have said they see writing on it. I looked, I didn't see any, but some people have claimed that they can see some writing etched into it. I can't. But I've got old eyes, so maybe your eyes are a little sharper and maybe you'll see some writing in it. I don't see any. But there's nothing rational about denying a fact. And there's nothing rational about denying the truth. It's irrational to deny a fact. Let me show you how irrational denying a fact is. Would you admit that it's a fact that we have a force on this earth called gravity? Would you admit that that is a fact? Well, I think most people would. Now, a guy goes up on top of a 60-story building and denies that fact. He says, there's no such thing as gravity, and I'm going to prove it. I don't believe it. And we create our own reality, and I'm going to create my own reality where there is no gravity. I don't believe it's a real, actual force. Nevertheless, when he steps off of that 60-story building, a few seconds later, he's going to be a mess at the bottom on the street. It's irrational to deny a fact. Now, when we look at the footprint, it's a fact that it looks like a footprint. But the surroundings tell us some things that cause questions. Like, where's the other footprint? If that's a footprint, where's the other one? So then we say, well, we can see the rover. That rover has left a track, and it looks very similar, doesn't it? Okay, well, that's a fact. The rover has left a track, and the track looks kind of similar. But the problem here is it's not a fact that that's a footprint. It's also not a fact that that's a rover track. We don't know what the fact is, because where's the other footprint if it's a footprint? Where's the other rover track if it's a rover track? And where are the tracks of the rover leading to it and away from it? So we don't know what that is. However, when we look at this picture from the Spirit rover, it is a fact that that is a rounded, curved object, and that it is bowl-shaped, and that it has patterns on it, and that those patterns are regular and geometrical, and that geology doesn't do that. Therefore, it is what it appears to be. Now, some people have said, I've said this thing looks like it's made out of metal. Others have said, well, it's probably not, because it's got this big crack in it. Now, if you'll look at the picture, you will see, for instance, look where the yellow arrow is. It's pointing right towards this big crack coming from the upper right to the lower left. And so there are people who have said that's probably made of stone or some kind of pottery, and that's a possibility. But I would remind you, the Liberty Bell here in the United States of America is made of metal, and it has a big crack too. So on Mars, I started out by saying I think that the evidence is overwhelming that there has been civilization on Mars. Some people think there's civilization there now, and there may be. I don't think that evidence is overwhelming. But evidence that there has been civilization, I think, is overwhelming. And this is some of that evidence that we get in the form of pictures from NASA. And there's just a ton of pictures from NASA that show things like this. So if I had shown you this and not told you it was Mars, wouldn't your mind have said that's some kind of ancient urn? It would. As a matter of fact, I had one guy that I showed this to. I did a show on this, 3 years ago, something like that. And I showed this picture without saying it was Mars, and it did not have the yellow arrow. It was just the picture. I didn't say it was Mars, and I showed it to a friend of mine. I said, what do you think that is? And he said, number one, he said, that is some kind of ancient pottery or urn. And he said, I think it's Mayan. I said, you think so? He said, yeah, I think so. And I asked why, and he said that big letter T shape right up in the middle of it is the Mayan symbol for life. So you can see right in the center, there's a T-shaped area. You see that? And he said that's the Mayan symbol for life, for breath, for life. He was a little bit shocked when I announced to him, well, it may be Mayan, but if it is, then the Mayans were on Mars. Here's the point, though. The point is somebody built that, and somebody dropped it where it is. The fact that it is worked and that it has art about it indicates civilization. You don't do those kinds of things. You know, one of the first signs of civilization is art. And one of the first signs of a dying civilization is the dying out of art. Somebody dropped that there, and somebody built it. That's civilization. We're going to open the phone lines when we come back and invite you to join this conversation. We'll be back right after this. Imagine 16 different blind men who are given the task of describing this animal. The only way they can see the animal is really by touching it. And so as they touch the animal with their hands, they begin to describe the part of the animal they're touching. Each one would think he's got the right description for a rhinoceros. But which one would be right? All of them, in part. Separately, all of them are incomplete. But when you put them together, you have a complete description. They wouldn't be giving us disinformation. They would be giving us diff-information. That's what we have in the world of UFOs. Each witness has a little piece of the description, a little piece of the information. But we have to put it all together to get the big picture. You hear guests on this show, sometimes a guest says one thing about UFOs, another guest says something else about UFOs, and then people wonder, well, which one is right? The answer? Very likely both of them, in part. But we have to put the pieces together to get the big picture. It isn't disinformation, it's diff-information, and that's what UFO investigation and research is all about. All right, welcome back to the Kevin Smith Show, and for those of you joining us just now in this second hour, welcome aboard. We're delighted you're here, and my sincere sympathy to you for whatever it is that kept you away from that first hour, and also my sincere hopes and wishes that you never suffer that tragedy again. It's free to watch tonight, and so if you're just now joining us, you need to know you can go over to my website, click where it says watch, and you can watch the show tonight. And we, on Free to Watch Night, I do like to present a number of pictures with anomalies and things so that we can talk about them and you can see them yourself. But what we want to do at the moment is we want to open the telephone lines, okay? The telephone number is 623-444-5889. 623-444-5889. And would love to have you join the conversation. You don't have to talk about these things that we've brought up here, that I've brought up and that I've been pointing out. We can talk about anything else that's within the genre of the strange and unexplained. Politics is out. I'm not interested in politics, and it's not what the show is about. But if it's in the world of the strange and unexplained, any topic is fair game. Caller, you are live on the Kevin Smith Show. Your first name and from where are you calling?
Hello?
Yes, your first name and from where are you calling?
Yes, this is Gwen in Texas.
Hello, Gwen.
How are you?
Outstanding. How are you?
Oh, I'm great tonight, and I love these shows when you have the pictures.
Good.
Absolutely love it. I'd like to make a comment about the first pictures that you showed that appeared to show figures standing on sand dunes. Can you put that up, please?
It's up there now.
Okay, it just hasn't kicked in on my... There we go. Okay, I noticed a feature on the crescent-shaped objects that the figures are standing on, the things that we're calling sand dunes.
Uh-huh.
And to my mind, these look like they might be structures. And I'm thinking that because if you look at the tops of the crescent shape, several of them seem to have like a little spot at the top.
Yes, they do.
You see what I'm...
Mm-hmm. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you what, I have to do the zoom manually.
Okay.
But if you give me just a moment, I will zoom in on those little spots at the top. Okay, here we go. And we'll zoom in on, yeah. So what do you think that is?
I have no idea, but let's see. The one we're looking at looks kind of like a little dot. The one on the crescent that's above it, if you could zoom in on that, I noticed that other one looks like it is almost a square shape.
Okay, the one right above it?
Yes. Not the one that is in the picture right now, but the one that's on the...
there we go.
On the crescent that is just above the crescent. There we go, that one.
All right.
And do you see that there's an angle there? The shadow is in an angled shape.
Mm-hmm.
And the one to the right of that has a similar configuration. And to me, it seems highly unusual that nature would create those shapes in almost exactly the same place on the crescents. I don't know what they would be, but I think it might be something that was built rather than geology. What do you think?
Well, I think you make a good point. As a matter of fact, I'm going to move to another one of these, and it's it's a crescent over on the right side of the picture, kind of midway up.
Okay.
And it's got 3 of those spots.
It does. I see it. I see them.
So I don't know. This is just bizarre. It really is bizarre.
The shapes are just phenomenal. I when you showed the close-up of the single figure, I thought, oh my goodness, it is humanoid shaped.
It is that shape. And he's walking.
Yes.
And I mean, if that's a bipedal creature, he's walking from left to right.
Yes.
And he's got his arms extended up into the air.
Yes.
And you can see his head and his torso and his legs. But I don't know that for sure that is what it is. But that's what it looks like.
So like I said, I don't know what those are. I don't know if those are creatures or if they're creatures, if they're standing on built structures that they built themselves, but it certainly is intriguing, and I'm so glad that you opened up the line so that we can talk about this and other people can give their comments too, because it's just blowing me away.
Yeah, and it's bizarre stuff. You know, I used to be out in Arizona, and out in Arizona you have some remains of some ancient structures that were built by the Hohokam Indians. The Hohokam would dig a pit to build their house. It didn't set on the surface, even though you could see it on the surface. They would dig a pit, and then they would build walls around and build a kind of domed structure to the top, you know. And so you see the walls. However, if you went into that house and stood on the floor, you would be standing not at the surface, but several feet below the surface.
Oh.
Okay. Outside, it looks like it's just setting on the surface. Inside, the floor is below that. Now, they did that because it keeps the houses cooler. So it was kind of like ancient air conditioning out there in the desert.
That makes sense.
Yeah. But the cool thing about those domes is they had a hole in the top. And that was both to let smoke out, and it was the door. To get inside, they had a ladder. And you climb up the ladder and climb into that hole and down the ladder to the inside. At nighttime, the way you lock the door is you pull the ladders up. You pull the ladder up from outside, and nobody could get up there.
On top of the crescents here look like they might be, you know, a ventilation hole, or maybe, like you're saying, maybe it's double duty. Maybe it is an ingress and egress also. It's very intriguing.
Well, it is, and you know, what's interesting to me is that if these are buildings, if they've been built, you know, they're all pretty much the same shape. They
are, and the irregularity is in the same location on each crescent.
Mm-hmm. It is,
and that to me just seems like it couldn't have been an accident.
Well, if they used,
it looks like a little square up on top, a flat square structure. Wow!
If they use that same concept,
showing a close-up of that again, and I hope somebody else can call in with another observation. This is very, very interesting. Thank you so much, Kevin.
All right, Gwen. Thank you. If they use the same idea for constructing, then I mean, if that's what this is. And, you know, I'm not saying it is, but it's possible, I guess. If they use the same concept for construction, then the actual floor of that building would be below that surface. Caller, you are live on the Kevin Smith Show. Your first name and from where are you calling?
My name is Colin, and I'm calling from New York.
Hello, Colin. How are you?
All right, not bad. I just wanted to make a quick observation about the photo you're talking about right now.
Okay.
That we tend to anthropomorphize when we look at images. You know, how we're primed to the eyes or faces, for instance. And I think that, in my mind, this might be a pattern of smoke or a big, heavy gas, and we're seeing figures that are in relief. And they might not be even live figures at all, but some sort of just figures of some sort of projected, you know, figures from the surface that smoke is going over. I don't know the size of the wash of the photo, how big this is, and but you know, the scale, in other words. But that was just something that occurred to me. Even with the shadow included in all the images, there's still in a thick enough smoke, there would be shadow cast on top of it from something that projected through it.
Well, the interesting thing, though,
just,
I understand what you're saying, and I'm certainly not saying that these are living figures. I'm not saying that. But if this were smoke, why does all the smoke stop at the same height?
you know, yeah, I don't
on
know.
all of those
It's
sand
like
dunes.
I say, I look at it and I see the shapes of them and how the pattern, how it continues, and it was one of the things that just sprung to mind early when I looked at it.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I'm no way am I contending that these are living beings out there, but I don't think it's smoke, because all of the smoke stops at the same height. If that's smoke, and there's no drift.
Well, you know, that could also be an atmospheric thing, the way a plume would wash. I mean, there's a containment line on anything that's a field. You know.
Okay, well, let's say that let's say that all of them are 20 feet tall, okay? And that's the containment line, 20 feet. You still don't have any smoke drift. And we do have, by the way, geysers. We have pictures of geysers on Mars where there's water plumes shooting up, geysers, and you see the drift of that in the atmosphere.
Well, like I say, it was just you know, I'm not even 100%, but it was just something I thought when I saw this. And also, there's another thing that occurs to me now. I saw it on TED, a presentation where they were trying to reclaim the edge of the Sahara by using living material, trees and such, and then filtering water in from the ocean, little by little, and installations. And the living environments that they were building were very similar in shape to this.
Really?
They had these how you would like spherical almost and semi-circular type entrances and overhangs that you would live underneath the root system of a tree, kind of thing.
Wow.
And
you saw this on television?
On TED.
TED.
Technology, Education, and Design.
Yeah, they've got some good stuff on TED.
Yeah, and it was one of the presentations under, I guess, would be under architecture, and the project was to reclaim the desert.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know what this stuff is. Other than to say it is really one of the most bizarre pictures that I've seen from Mars.
Right.
And it's not unique. There are some other places on Mars where they've gotten similar pictures with these black shadow things standing up like this.
Right.
If you examine, Colin, this entire picture, and you zoom in on every one of the little black things standing up, they don't all look like bipedal creatures. Some are. I mean, we looked at some that are shaped kind of that way, but they don't all look like that.
Right. It's true. They have a lot of variation there.
Mm-hmm. So what's your best guess? Smoke?
I don't, it's like, I mean, you know what I mean? It's just like how you say, like that whipped cream, sort of that meringue sort of flow to it.
Yeah.
And then, like, the fact, like, with the ones that you pointed out with the rifle on his hip, for instance, well, he would be waist deep in it, and that's where that idea of the smoke came in, like, that they're looking like they're traveling through a matrix, and or that there's a matrix traveling over them, and not that they're living creatures, that they're just projectiles of some sort that, like I say, we anthropomorphize and we are primed to see things from our perspective,
Well, look, something that's got a torso, a head, 2 arms, and 2 legs, well, that's not
shoulder and head.
I mean, it's shaped
neck,
like it's shaped like what it's shaped like, and that's not anthropomorphizing it, or however. How do you say the yeah,
anthropomorphizing.
You did that real well. For some reason, my mouth won't say that word tonight. Okay, but that we're not doing that when we say that's what it's shaped like. Now, if we say that's what it is, then we're anthropomorphizing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're just saying that's what it's shaped like. The one with the rifle on his hip, those are also shaped like little birds in a nest with their mouth open.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and then the bowl, the one that's the one that's a vessel. I mean, like you say, it just looks so obvious. And the idea of it being Mayan in design. I mean, we have to get, I think, a little your audience, myself, obviously yourself. I mean, I think a lot of us here listening right now are grown up to know that, we can admit that we aren't taught the real history, and there's a lot of secrets that are known that just aren't simply revealed. And we're playing this game of trying to catch the good information. I heard a guy last night on a radio show talking about how there's carbon-14 in all the dinosaur bones. Therefore, this is one of the bases of his arguments for the Earth being 6,000 years old. And when you listen to him, he's a very educated man, artist, and he's convincing. But I don't hold this view. But when I listen to him, it definitely opened my mind. And you get to this point where you don't know what to believe. You have to go with the best available information out there. I really am thankful for outlets like this. And tonight, thank you for sharing for free, because not all of us have been able to become a member yet. But it's great to take part like this, and I appreciate that. And it's like I say, my best guess is that there was life on Mars. There was water there. There was life there. Things happen. There's a big history. I mean, we're egocentric to think that we're the only life. You know what I mean? This idea of course there's other life, and of course it's interacting with us. And I've had sort of dimensional experiences and things like this, just things that you couldn't talk me out of. Mm-hmm. There's a lot more to this whole ball of wax than just paying your bills and punching in and out of your job and being shooted into this sort of conditioned perspective. And then
there's reality is way bigger than people think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you where you can see? I'd love to let somebody else get their view.
Well, hang on a minute. Hang on. Are you where you can see your screen?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to put up a picture I haven't put up yet. The other night, I dealt with some pictures that I said, this looks like an ancient archaeological site. And it looks like a big stone floor that's been broken up. And I talked about various features. And I showed an archaeological site here on Earth where the archaeologists are in the picture, unearthing it, and it looked just the same. Looked the same. And I got some email calling from somebody who said, oh, you're just imagining stuff. All right, so let me just ask people to tell me, and you tell me, is that Earth or Mars?
I mean, it would be hard to to tell. I mean, it's so generic, and it could be any geological formation. I mean, it
really couldn't, and the reason it couldn't, it could not be geological, and the reason it couldn't is because of that circular cistern sitting back there.
Where is this? Oh, this is toward the right-hand side of the photo there.
Toward the left-hand side, the left-hand side of the photograph. You see that circular thing? It's got a circular hole in the top of it. You see that?
Okay.
That's a water cistern.
Yeah, you know what? I don't know.
Well, I do, because I've lived where they use those.
Oh.
And in fact, they called them, they didn't call it a cistern, they called it a mandy. That's what that is. Huh. And that's on Mars.
Uh-huh.
And that's a broken up floor and the water mandy, the water cistern.
Okay.
And that's on Mars. But I've shown that picture to two people today who told me that was on Earth.
When I see a photo like this, though, the scale is immediately the challenge. Like, I don't know what size are these squares I'm looking at. How high up in the air am I in?
You're not up in the air. This is taken by a rover. You're sitting on the ground with the rover, so you're looking at you're seeing it to scale here. This is not a satellite photograph. This is taken by a rover. It's taken by Opportunity.
Yeah, I think the whole color. I mean, I believe. I believe this is a lot of things that are just covered up, and that they're just as real, and they're happening right now. And I don't know that it's even good that we should all know everything. I think we should, if we're interested, you got to go down the road you got to go down. But yeah, this stuff is to me is like so out there for so long, and I can't understand how it hasn't become just understood as like, yeah, there is this stuff. This is real. Like Bigfoot, for instance, is another thing. There's so many stories, so many places. All of this leads to credibility, and not to just simply a legend.
Right.
And
well,
at a point, even
there's
without
footprints and hair.
You have to admit.
Yeah. Colin, I got to run, man. Thanks for the call. Very interesting.
I'm sorry to take so much time. Thank you for having me on.
Not a problem. I'm the one who kept you when you tried to hang up before, so it's mine. All right, thanks for the call. 623-444-5889. 623-444-5889. Caller, you're live on the Kevin Smith Show. Your first name and from where are you calling?
Hi, Kevin. This is Roger, and I'm calling from Wisconsin.
Well, hello, Roger from Wisconsin.
Hi, Kevin. Hey, this is a great show. Love the pictures. I have comments basically about all of them. The one thing I noticed on the one with the sand dunes, quote unquote, is that maybe if you could pull that picture up.
It's up.
What I noticed is that the things that we're noticing and we're ascribing as human forms or whatever those are that come out, those black things, I noticed that they consistently come out of a ridge.
Yeah.
The ridge of the structure, basically.
Yep. You're right.
You never see them coming up out of the down in the convex part or concave part or whatever. And the other thing I notice and is that if you zoom out again, there's a difference between the structures. I'm calling them structures. And then the surrounding terrain, like you've got the terrain that runs up to the structures or the shapes,
yep.
And it's kind of rough.
Yep.
And then the actual, I'm calling them structures, are smooth. There's just a different texture to them, as if they're not of the same whatever consistency or strata or whatever, and they just. I don't know, but just because they're different, but they're consistent enough where you would think that if there was some sort of a colony here, they would make their structures in a way that, to me, I think, well, what if these are designed because the winds come from one direction, you know? So that's my speculation about those.
Well, that's a great observation and one that I had not noted, but you're exactly right. We have the ground looking a little rough, and then you get to the structure, and it is a structure, whether it was artificial. Hey, can you hang on through this break?
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, hang on. We'll get back to that in just a moment. We'll be back, folks, right after this.
We've been around for a long time. Not quite this long, but a long time. And you have made that possible with your support of the Kevin Smith Show. From the bottom of my heart, thank you for supporting the show. With your continued support, we hopefully will be around for a lot longer. Hey, don't look so surprised. I'm everywhere.
Hi, this is Molly from hot Arizona, but nothing's hotter than the Kevin Smith Show.
Welcome back to the Kevin Smith Show, and on the telephone with me is Roger from Wisconsin. And by the way, Wisconsin is one of the best kept secrets for rock music. Did you know that? Are you there?
I did not.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Some of the best independent rock artists, rock bands in America are in Wisconsin, and a bunch of them in Milwaukee. So.
Well, actually, now that you mention it, there are some bands in Milwaukee that I'm really fond of, and had the privilege to hear this summer at some music festivals.
There you go. I've been listening to Milwaukee bands as I worked for the past couple of days, and I'm pretty impressed with them. All right, let's go back to these dunes and other pictures. You said you had some other comments about...
Yeah, actually, the one question I want to ask real quick about the last photo we were talking about is, do you have any indication of scale at all? Because, of course, that's probably...
all of that, go over to J.P. Skipper's website. It's Mars Anomaly Research, all one word, MarsAnomalyResearch.com. And you'll find this and his very detailed article about all that.
Okay.
Because I wasn't doing any real analysis of the pictures, I just wanted to show it as an example. I didn't get into the scale and all the details of it.
Well, do you want to talk about the footprint?
Okay,
picture?
let's talk about the footprint. Yeah. It's up.
So here's what came to mind. Because if you look to the left, there's that imprint that looks like a partial.
Yeah, it looks like it could be like the toe of another.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then also, so that's to the left of the main print, and then to the right, it looks like you might have another print that's angled at a different angle than the direction of the original print. So I thought of this. Do you follow what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
This is what came to my mind: is what if the one to the left is actually the right foot? The main print would be the left foot, and then you have the person kind of stepping back at an angle, kind of backwards, maybe even trying to step out of view of the camera. And I do see your point about it looking like a right foot, but in the alignment of the left print and then the main print, it seems like it could be slightly skewed to the to the right if it was some kind of a person walking, from left to right. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but now I've got a question for you. When you say there's a partial print to the right at a different angle,
yeah,
are you talking about in that dark soil area?
Yeah, in the dark soil area, just, you've got the apex of the vehicle there, that kind of point that's pointing right at it.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like the treads and the direction of the print is actually more angled forward. So as if you were to, say you've got your foot in that position of the yellow rectangle, that would be your left foot. And then you take your right foot and you kind of sidestep and to, angle it.
Yeah, I see what you're talking about. I see what you're talking about. So then that dark area and what's in it, you don't think that would be the rover's tracks?
Well, it seems to me I don't know. It's just that one section there looks very similar in size and shape as the main print.
Yeah.
In terms of the thickness and bands of the tread there, and it so that part of it looks like a print. But to the right of that a little bit, I see that there's the buildup of the soil or whatever that could be. I don't know. That's just sort of my analysis of it.
Well, here's the scenario, and look, you may be right, but let's say those are footprints, okay?
Yeah.
Then what we would have to have, the scenario we would have to have, is the rover is there and churns up that area in the lower right-hand corner.
Mm-hmm.
The person is there, notices the rover is turning its direction,
mm-hmm.
and decides to haul Martian booty.
Yeah.
And in other words, they're there concurrent with each other.
Uh-huh.
Because if that's a footprint in that dark area, it's on top of the tracks of the rover.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
And so, and that, who knows, maybe that's what took place. But, take a look.
It's like what the earlier caller was saying. It's so unfortunate that, this information is kept from us, and, what amazing and cool information this is, and why. We know why, but it's I'm excited to be living in a time where I think the secrets are coming out, and
what do you think about? I agree with you. What do you think about the size of that when we compare it to this corner of the rover? That's like a size 15. This is a big guy.
Well, you would probably know that better than me because I don't know the relative size of the rover.
It's the size of a Humvee.
Okay.
So here we're looking at one corner of a Humvee.
Yeah.
Look at the size of that footprint.
Yeah. Well, and even, it seems, I don't know. I guess with just so little of the rover showing and the camera angle, to me it's a little hard to determine. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I want to say something about the other picture, if you don't mind, I think the last one you showed.
Okay. Yeah, it's up. Go ahead. Are you talking about the one that's an urn?
I wonder if this is some kind of a debris field. Because you even see that one chunk that's to the upper right there of this object. And then when you zoom out, it seems like there's other kinds of...
Yeah, other kinds of stuff laying around there.
The piece off to the left, you've got the piece that's up at the very top of the picture.
Mm-hmm.
You've got that piece off to the right. It's clearly... When it was zoomed out and I first looked at it, I thought it looked like the ribs of some sort of a structure or something. But as in the zoomed-in picture, you can see it's all like one piece. But I thought, what if it was some kind of a craft, and what you're looking at is a debris field?
Well, that may be exactly the case. It may be a debris field.
It definitely looks like it's been, somebody made that. It's just obvious. It's remarkable. It's absolutely remarkable.
Well, somebody made it, and somebody left it where it is, and to me, that sounds like civilization.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting to know that this planet has a whole history that we know nothing about.
Yeah, well, even our own planet, the history we know is very often fiction.
Sure. Sure.
Very, very often,
history.
we hear about the barbarians and how awful they were and all of that. And they probably were pretty tough people. There's no question about that. What we don't hear is how the Romans cheated them and how the Romans took their land, and then the barbarians said, you know what, enough's enough, and they came in and sacked Rome. And we don't hear that side of the story.
Ultimately, the barbarians get the bad rap.
Yeah, and the victor writes the history. So a whole lot of what we think we know of history is fiction, and are at least very, 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 very biased in a particular direction.
Well, it seems we live in a time where people want to know the truth. And and now with the age of the internet, as the only free press we have right now, anyway, there's opportunity for people to research these things and people to share these things.
Mm-hmm.
I love your show. You're the one radio show that I actually am a member of and subscribe to, and I just feel like you're on the cutting edge as much as you're able to bring out information that we need to be paying attention to and isn't readily available.
Well, Roger, I appreciate that, and I appreciate
Kevin,
you being a member.
I appreciate you.
Well, thank you, and thank you for the call.
All right, have a good night. Thanks.
All right, and catch some of that great Wisconsin rock music. If you like rock music, there's some great bands in Wisconsin. There's no question about that. 623-444-5889. 623-444-5889. And we have a flash message from Australia, from Kevin. And he says, looking at that print, the print has a small indent next to it on the left. Could that be the print of a walking stick? Well, I don't know. Let's take a look at that again. I didn't notice that. That's one of the reasons I love being able to do these shows where we can have everybody, just call in and say what you see, because and what you think about it. People will notice things that I haven't noticed, and that's a good thing. So an imprint near, I don't see exactly what he's talking about. But maybe you do. I'll leave that picture up, and maybe you see what he's talking about, and you can call in and guide me to it. The other picture that looks like individuals, and the subjects have shadows below them both. I'm not sure what the question is, but I think what he's saying is that, yes, they do look like individuals. They look like bipedal individuals out there, and they do have a shadow. That's true, they do. I don't know what they are, but they do have that shape. Kevin, thanks for the flash message, man. I appreciate your observations. All right, caller, you're live on the Kevin Smith Show. Your first name and from where are you calling?
Kevin, this is Brent from Wyoming.
Hello, Brent.
I'm going to go back to those first pictures you showed, the ones of the sand dunes, and to me they look like statues. But I'll describe what I see.
Okay, go ahead.
And that first one you zoomed in on, you got to realize I grew up with Walt Disney on Sunday evenings.
Okay.
And the one with the two statues.
Yeah.
The one on the left looks kind of like an evil wizard.
Okay.
The one on the right looks like Tinkerbell blown up.
Tinkerbell blown up. Okay. All right.
But they look like statues to me or something. I may be totally wrong, but if you look along some of those dunes, the ridges, some of those other quote unquote dunes, looks like they have platforms that the statues have fallen off of.
Well, let's
zoom out.
Let's take a look at that. Takes me a second to get the zoom done here when because I'm changing zooms. The way it works, folks, is I pre-program in what I'm going to zoom, and then when I change my mind and want to zoom something else, I have to do that manually. Sometimes you can do it, and sometimes you can't. Okay, so they look like they're falling off of their pedestals?
No, if you look at some of the dunes when you zoom out,
it's zoomed out.
It looks like there are some pedestals that other statues have fallen off of, or just weren't built yet, or something. Just along the ridges.
Okay.
There's some dark spots.
Yeah, there are dark spots, but I'm going to zoom in on one and show you that they don't all look bipedal. And Brent, hang on, because we have to go to a break, and we'll be back right after this.
And he's right down the middle, and what he does is he just asks tough questions, and he gets the guest to come up with more information, even if the guest wasn't expecting to tell that part of their story. That's what a good journalist does. And so Kevin has really, he's impressed me.
Welcome back to the Kevin Smith Show, and on the telephone with me, Brent from Wyoming. Brent, when we had to go away for break, I was just put a picture up, and I'm going to do it again, where we can see some of these don't look bipedal. Now, if you look in the curve of the crescent, right kind of upper left center of your screen,
there's a black thing sticking up, and it just
that looks kind of like flames to me, black flames for some reason.
Okay, now standing right out there on the ridge,
it's a burnt match.
Well, they're standing right out on the ridge on the right, over near the right side of the picture. That could be someone standing at attention with the shadow cast behind them. But I mean, I'm not saying that's what it is. I'm saying, it's shaped such that it could be something like that. But I don't see a pedestal for that one.
Now go look between those two, between what I call the flames and what I call the match. There are two black places right there.
Yep.
They could be either just rocks sticking up or pedestals.
Okay.
That's what I mean by could be pedestals of something.
Well, it might be. One thing is for sure, there is one thing that I can say absolutely for sure about that picture, is I don't have a clue what those things are. It's bizarre.
I'm just telling you what it looks like to me.
Yeah. Well, and that's all we can do is say what it looks like, how it appears to us. And you may be right about that, about those being pedestals. I don't know. It is weird stuff.
I do like, was the first caller who made the observation that they look like they blend in, but they're a different texture. Those curved dunes.
I can't remember which caller that was. It was either Colin or Roger that did that. But you're right. If we go back and look at it, you can see, well, I'm zoomed in at the wrong place. Give me a second, Brent. Okay, more than a second. And I will zoom this out where we can see what we're talking about here. Okay. It should appear on your screen momentarily. You can see the ground to the left. And it's got ridges and roughness in it. But when you get to these things that I said look like whipped cream, somebody else says it looks like meringue, they are really smooth. Now, I'm going to zoom in on one of them and show what I mean. They are a completely different texture from the surrounding ground.
Yeah.
They look almost plastic.
I don't know if I go plastic or not, but they look like something, yeah.
Mm-hmm. They're really smooth.
Could be concrete.
Well, they may be concrete, yeah. But they're very, very smooth. So I don't know, man. This may be an American base, and our secret astronauts are housed there, and they're taking an afternoon stroll.
Or it could be their version of a Native American tribe.
It could be. I don't know what it is, and I hope everyone understands that I was being very facetious there. But yeah, it's bizarre. No question about it. It is bizarre.
Yeah. That's all I really wanted to say, because like I said, I grew up with Disney animation and Sunday evenings at 7:30, so that was just my first impressions when I looked at them, the Evil Wizard and Tinkerbell.
Yeah, well, it might be. Who knows, man? It might be Tinkerbell. Brent, thanks for the call, man. I appreciate it. 623-444-5889. 623-444-5889. Caller, you're live on the Kevin Smith Show. Your first name and from where are you calling?
Hello, Kevin. How are you?
Doing good. First name and from where are you calling?
This is Tony from Norman, Oklahoma.
Hello, Tony.
How are you?
I'm doing good, sir. What's on your mind?
That footstep next to the rover.
Okay.
You said a 15-inch size shoe. How long would that be in inches?
Well, I said that. I'm just saying. I wear a size 10. Okay.
Oh, I understand that.
And I'm looking at that, and my foot in comparison to that rover, and I'm saying, that's got to be a size 15, at least.
So, in other words, whoever's wearing that shoe would be roughly how tall you think?
Oh, well, I don't know. You know, my dad was only an inch taller than me and wore a size 13. And I wear.
So the guy could be pretty big, or not necessarily?
Not necessarily. He would be bigger than me.
What I'm thinking is maybe that's a foot from someone who is standing on the rover, or that's the last footprint you see, because the next footprint is on the rover. He's climbing on the rover, and the other footprints could be on the other side.
Well, now see, there's the advantage of having folks call in and say what they observe and what they think. I had not considered that. So maybe that's the last footprint before he jumped up on the fender, huh?
That possibility. Because depending on how tall he is, maybe you just can't see the footprint behind that one if he's tall enough.
That's possible.
His stride might be, wider than the camera view.
Yeah.
So that's the last footprint you see as he stepped up onto the rover.
It's a possibility. So maybe it's maybe the rover has a driver now. Or at least a passenger. Guy's walking across the Martian desert, and he says, "Whoa, I didn't expect a taxi, but I'll ride."
Well, where you going, sir? Are you heading for London?
I'm sorry?
For Liverpool.
Oh. Well, what you say is, we don't know, and what you're saying is a possibility, of course. It is a possibility.
Especially if the talk of having people from here up there, like, I don't know if I told you the story, I think I did, where I was listening to Coast, and it was with Art, when Art Bell was still on. And he had a caller call in. The guest was John Lear.
Uh-huh.
And a caller called in and said that he was in mission control and watching a live feed coming down from Mars. I think from Spirit. And two men or two human-looking beings were walking towards the rover, and then the picture went. And
you heard this?
Yes, I heard it.
Well,
I heard it live.
We've had guests on this show who have said, I've had guests on this show who have said there's a base on Mars, and the guest said he has been there. So, and people think, oh, well, that's nuts. Well, how do you know? You've been to Mars? I haven't been to Mars.
Andrew Usaggio?
No, it was someone else. But the person said that they've been to that base on Mars. And, in fact, I've had two different guests that have said that. And when people say, well, that's just nuts. No, it wasn't.
No, it was.
When people say, well, that's just nuts, my question is, well, how do you know that? Have you ever been to Mars? Just because we don't know and we think it's not there doesn't mean it isn't. Out of time. I wish I had more. My friends call me Steel Eye. My enemies do too. You can call me whatever you want to call me. Just keep coming back again and again and again. It's been great. Until next time, so long, everybody.